Good day, YouTube. JD here for the Pagan Star Post. Got a couple of stories I think you all will be interested in. I'm going to go ahead and jump straight into them. Starting with Trump. Of course, Trump has been making news headlines almost every single week and weekend for the last 100 days or so. Trump was in the news last week for giving or sharing classified information with the Russians, and everybody was kind of jumping on his case and basically generally upset because he literally gave it to the same person, Kislyak is his name, who is an ambassador to Russia. He's basically the same person that Michael Flynn has been kind of implicated in and contacting. So it's a crazy idea that he's sharing classified information. What isn't clear in most of the news sources is where this information came from. Which country did it come from? Well, President Trump landed in Tel Aviv not long ago, and it could be due to his jet lag state or just his state of exhaustion, which has been in the news lately a lot. But apparently he gave up the source of the information. He literally, word for word, mentioned, and kind of a dig on the press. He basically said that he never once mentioned Israel and that the press got the information wrong. And this is kind of almost a damning thing because he literally gave away the source of his information when he did that. And Fox News, of all places, who is usually always looking to pump up any Republican that's in office or any Republican that's trying to enter office, there was actually a reporter that outright called Trump on this issue. And this is something that's a big change in policy for Fox. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the passing of the person that used to run Fox. You know, he did leave the company shortly before he died, but it seems that there's been a shift in the way that they handle Republican issues over there. Speaking of Trump, moving along to a story that is going to touch millions of Americans across the country. As you know, Trump's budget plan is going to be revealed soon, and you know, things are still heavily fluid. A lot of things may change, but what's been very, very clear and very, very solid is that the Republicans really want to make a major cut to food stamps. And the way food stamps work now, from what I understand from doing my research here, food stamps aren't kind of stamps or coupons like they used to be in the past. People are actually given debit cards. Well, there's a study from an article from QZ.com that goes into just who uses food stamps. 8.8 million white people use food stamps, and they lead the top of the food stamp users in the U.S. in 2015. That's followed by 5.7 million African Americans, followed by 2.5 million Hispanics, and less than a million Asians, and then after that it falls to Native Americans, and then you start to fall off the list. And there's also a 2.8 unknown million people who use it, but for the most part it's whites leading the top by a large margin that will be hurt when this budget comes out and they actually cut funding for food stamps. Now I wonder how many of these people who are on food stamps actually went out and voted for Trump. It's highly likely that there's a large majority of these people who are on food stamps who voted for this man, and now he's going to take away what they've been using to feed their families. 41.5 million people in total. These are U.S. citizens that are on food stamps that he's going to take this money away from. So these people are going to have to come up with a way to feed their families. Sometimes, depending on how far into poverty they are involved in, they turn to crime. Well, Jeff Sessions is working hard on making sure that you have a place to sleep at night. It's called the jail. That's what that is kind of what they seem to be moving towards. They want you to go ahead and fall straight into jail if you can't afford to feed your families. It's a whole vicious cycle and system these guys seem to be setting up. And all I can say is that you better strap in and get ready, because it's coming. It's actually white females overwhelmingly who are on food stamps by a large margin again. It's 25.6 million females who are on food stamps. And if you remember the results of the election, it was predominantly white females that gave Donald Trump the White House. So if you're out there and you're wondering why you won't be able to feed your families come whenever this budget kicks in, it may have come down to your choice at the polls. Since we're on the topic of money, let's move right along to one more story, Bitcoin. If you haven't heard of Bitcoin, it's a digital currency that is for the most part untrackable. It's earned its fame for the more shady business dealings in the past, where people who didn't want their money tracked by banks and things of the nature would engage in Bitcoin. But there's a story out of CNBC.com that mentions that if you bought $100 worth of Bitcoin on May 22nd, 2010, and you kept them until this week, you literally would be sitting on $72.9 million. That's crazy that Bitcoin has become such a monster as far as currency is concerned. There are other currencies like Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is by far the front runner, and I believe it will continue to be this strong long into the future. This may be due to China and Japan loosening up some of the restrictions they had on Bitcoin. Our last story for the day for you Android users who have rooted your phone. Netflix has begun detecting if your phone is rooted, and they have begun a process where they've been reporting that they will be blocking this feature in the future. Now, there are ways around it, but it is going to be another process that you have to learn in order to get around it. But this may be the beginning of the end of using Netflix with a rooted device, because all it takes is an update, and then you have to learn a new process to get around it. And for the most part, however many people who are using Netflix on a rooted phone, they may, once they find that they can't use it on the rooted phone, they may just unroot their phone. There's going to be a large number of people. It's going to be a big fall off where they just won't use rooted phones anymore. So that's something that's coming. As to why they're doing it, it's probably the fact that Netflix has contracts with some of its content providers, and it seems as if perhaps the apps on the rooted phone are allowing you to make copies of these movies, and these could be really high quality copies. So that's probably what's going on. Maybe some of these movies and videos showing up online on some of the torrent websites. I wouldn't put it past Netflix, and it's probably smart business to put watermarks in their videos. So perhaps they've detected these on torrents websites, and in order to stay, providing good content for people who want to pay for Netflix, they've decided to go ahead and use DRM and stop this practice of using rooted phones. But like I said, you can get around it. There's articles out there that talks about how to get around it, but eventually, I believe, once they do enough software updates, you may not be able to get around it. So that's just something to be aware of, that in the future you will not be able to use Netflix. It's possible you may not be able to use Netflix on a rooted Android phone. But that's all my stories for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please like this video, share it, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell button down there, so that way you can be made aware of whenever I have new videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.